Hello, everyone. Welcome to Module 4. This week, we are talking all about empaths and relationships. So you may or may not feel slightly triggered as we go through some of the stuff. It may or may not bring up some emotions from past relationships, platonic and romantic. So just to keep things into perspective as we continue on with this module. Okay. Let's get started. Empaths and relationships. Module 4, welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope this module finds you all doing amazing, having revelations, having aha moments, setting boundaries, connecting with your intuition, understanding more about your beautiful gifts, and let's get started. Take a moment to close your eyes and bring attention to your breath, allowing your belly to rise on the in-breath and fall on the out-breath. With continuing that pattern of breath, I would like you to bring your hands, if they're laying on your legs, if they're at your sides or in your lap, bring them to either side of your legs. And I would like you to bring them up, raise them up as if you're gathering air all around you. And you are allowing your hands to meet right above your head with your arms as straight as you can. And then with your palms pressed together, bringing your hands down to your heart center. You can tuck your chin if it feels good, or let your head hang, or whatever feels good for you. But I just want you to bring your attention to your heart center. And just set any intention that feels good for you today that is coming from your heart center, using the energy in your hands to connect with your heart center. Just allowing anything that wants to come up for you. Maybe it's just being present for this module. Maybe it's opening your heart after this module, learning something about yourself. Whatever intention feels good for you, set it at this time. You can bring your hands down to your lap, and we will continue forward with the intention to empower each and every one of ourselves, each and every one of you, in every single relationship that you have. And this is relationships that are with our partner, relationships with friends, with family members, with coworkers, with clients, with patients, with strangers that we're just passing by on the street. But I'm just going to set the intention here to empower you in every single relationship that you come across. So you can open your eyes whenever you are ready. And let's get started. All right, so due to our extreme sensitivities, empaths have a very challenging time in relationships. This isn't true for all empaths, but it is true for the majority of us. So to embrace healthy relationships, to flourish in relationships, there are a couple things that we're going to talk about. One of those is that we must learn to communicate and set clear boundaries to prevent overloading our system and remaining at ease. So if you remember back in module 1, we talked about how empaths have a hypersensitive nervous system. We are not only sensitive to things in our environment, but our body then can become overstimulated if we are around people, if we're in like certain situations or at events, that there's just a lot going on. So we have to learn how to communicate that when we're feeling that way, when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling overburdened by someone else's emotions. And then we get to practice, like in module 2, setting those clear boundaries, setting those boundaries of what we will and won't put up with, what we do and do not want in our space, and then removing ourselves from situations that feel too overwhelming. So the struggle in relationships is that we crave companionship. We're humans, we want companionship, but it can feel unsafe as we have a tendency to take on our partner's emotional turmoil. So something that is wonderful about empaths that may not feel so wonderful sometimes is that when we open up in relationships, we become more intimate with our partners. We begin to not only have our emotional turmoil, but we can have a tendency to take on theirs as well when boundaries aren't in place. And then we're feeling overstressed. We're carrying the stress of 2 people, not just one. And then that can cause us to get a little overstimulated. So when we can open up and recognize what is ours and what belongs to our partners, when we feel supported and heard, then relationships can be extremely empowering for us. When an empath feels supported, an empath thrives. So the balancing act in relationships kind of looks like this. We crave companionship. We want to be intimate with someone. We want to feel loved by our partners, by our friends, by our family. However, we also crave alone time. We also do not want to feel responsible for our partner's needs. And a lot of times we take on that responsibility subconsciously. So we can shut down. We can repress our anxieties, our fears, our depression. We can run away when things get too intense. And this creates a fear of commitment. A lot of empaths have a fear of commitment. And we can confuse connection with attachment. So when we are in a relationship and we think that, oh, this person, they just need to open up to me. We enter a relationship and we're like, this person just needs to open up to me. I can get them to open up. That's not a connection. That is an attachment to that person. You have to recognize when there is not a healthy connection. A healthy connection is when both partners are committed mutually to the relationship, to the growth of the relationship, and they both want to open up their hearts to one another. So this is a balancing act that we get to take on in all of our relationships, not just an intimate relationship, but in every single relationship with groups of friends. If you've ever noticed being out in groups of friends, you may kind of step away and sneak off or do the Irish goodbye, where you just say goodbye without actually saying goodbye with anyone. You just leave because you just want to be alone. You just need that feeling of being recharged, rejuvenated, and that doesn't come from being in a room full of a bunch of people, very close, very loud, so on and so forth. And that's okay. So because empaths have these conflicting wants and needs in relationships, empaths can be a target for unavailable people to enter their lives. And this is not just in a romantic relationship. This is friends, this is coworkers, this is bosses, these are clients and patients. So apply this to whatever area of your life that you need to. But I say partner, but you can enter friend, family member, boss, coworker, so on and so forth. So empaths become in sync with their partner's emotions. And I say partner's emotions because any person that we're spending a lot of time with, we tend to become in sync with their emotions. This is why it's so important for you to take time each morning to just kind of determine how your body feels that day so you can determine when there is a slight difference going on in your body. So this can be wonderful in a sense of feeling how our partner feels, but we can also absorb their stress. This goes with any people. The closer that we become with someone, the more heightened our sensitivities become to them. This can result in us feeling drained and overloaded very frequently. So if we don't do the work to observe our own body, to work with the ability to not absorb our partner's stress or anyone else's stress, then we may subconsciously begin to avoid relationships, or we attract emotionally unavailable people. Because in relationships, we do not attract what we want, we attract what we are. And if we have this innate fear that we are going to take on our partner's emotions, or we just got out of a relationship and it was emotionally abusive or very, very stressful, then we may subconsciously close down, and then you become an energetic match for emotionally unavailable people. So unavailable people will never let an empath get close enough to experience their own fears of intimacy. So the empath's fears of intimacy, unavailable people will never let you get close enough to experience those fears. So this is why we're kind of drawn to them. Empaths may leave relationships after the honeymoon phase or attract relationships that never develop into anything. So if you are someone who you're with someone for a few months and then after that you're just kind of like, oh, okay, I'm over this, or you're someone who kind of hops around, or you begin dating someone, you get like really scared and you drop out, then that's totally normal for an empath to do. But with some of the tools that you'll work with today, you can overcome that. Okay. So building your ideal relationship, here are some do's and don'ts of building your ideal relationships. So one thing that when you are finding an emotionally compatible partner or an emotionally compatible friend, roommate, coworker, so on and so forth, communication is the number one do in the relationship. I know that it's in here somewhere, but communication is number one. To be very open and honest with your feelings. You don't need to explain your feelings. We never need to explain ourselves. We just simply need to say, I need some alone time. I'd like that right now. Or I'm feeling a little overstimulated. I would just like to be by myself. Or every day at 1 p.m., I'm taking an hour to rejuvenate by myself. Whatever feels good for you. I just want to really get it into your mind that you don't need to explain anything. So some do's in building your ideal relationship is to value your own alone time and then discuss the appropriate amounts of time for each other and by yourself. So with a partner, with a roommate, with a friend, with coworkers, if you're feeling overburdened by their presence, then you can just say like, look, I need at least an hour every single day by myself. I need every other weekend by myself. I need 4 days a week by myself. Whatever feels good for you. Discuss how you want to socialize at social events. Are you someone who jumps into the middle of the party? Are you someone who kind of hangs out on the end and then you allow your friends and your partner to go jump into the middle of the party? Make the necessary adjustments at home and personal space. Some empaths sleep in separate beds of their partners, and there's nothing wrong with that. Whatever feels best for you. You might need your own space, a spare room that can just be yours, whatever feels well for you. Some people do well with like a meditation space or a sacred altar space. Focus on one emotional issue at a time. A lot of us tend to hold things in, and then we're like spewing out one issue and then the other one and the other one and the other one. Because to us, it's all very overwhelming. But to them, it's like, okay, you just threw 16 issues at me and I don't know which one to address. So really ask what is the most pressing issue right now and learn to express that. And then don't take things personally. Empaths take things very personally because we can feel the emotions of other people, but recognize that they're coming from their own space. They're coming from their own history, their own biography, and how they perceive things is how they perceive things. It has nothing to do with you. You interpret what they're saying and you attach meaning to it. What they're saying actually has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the reflection of themselves. Make requests, not demands. Communicate your boundaries. Accept your partner for how they are and decide if it's someone you want to be with. Accepting your partner for who they are and deciding if it's someone you want to be with, not trying to change them. Compromise and play. Empaths can be very, very serious in any relationship, so do not forget to play. Schedule it into your weekly schedule. Don't do, if you want an ideal relationship, then these are the things that you do not want to do. Convince yourself of something that doesn't feel true inside of your body. How often do we enter relationships when they don't feel good for us, or we stay in relationships when they don't feel good for us? So learn to listen to your body and stop staying in relationships that feel that way. Do not keep your wants and needs hush out of fear. Do not stay or try to build with someone who criticizes you for being overly sensitive. If someone is telling you that you're overly sensitive, that person is not for you. Get lost in pleasing your partner and lose sight of your wants and needs. Only suggest that your partner meets your needs, not the other way around. Remember, compromise. It's important for us to meet our partner's needs, our friends' needs, our family's needs, just as much as we expect them to meet our needs. But it's up to us to go back to, we accept these people for who they are, and then we decide how much of them we want in our lives. Does that make sense? Do not try to change your partner or anyone else. It is not our responsibility to change anyone, only ourselves. It is our responsibility to ask, does this person align with me at this time in my life? And do not throw the kitchen sink of emotions at your partner. Okay. So when it comes to relationships or not relationships and hooking up, there is no such thing as a casual hookup for an empath. In the act of sex, we pick up both positive and negative feelings when you are connected with a partner. So you can also pick up intuitive hits on your partner during that time. And when I'm saying partner, I'm just referring to the person that you were in bed with at that time or naked with, wherever you're at. So this doesn't mean that you've been dating this person for a year and a half and you guys are in this committed relationship. This could mean that you just met somebody at a bar, you both are feeling each other, and you go in the back seat, and like you can get intuitive hits on that person. So this is why sex is so is such a, I want to say important, but I don't want to like freak anybody out, but like an important topic for empaths, because when we are intimate with someone, our heart and sexual energies are combined with that person. We are heart-centered beings. We are heart-centered, okay? Empaths feel before they act. So when we have a lot of these random encounters, not saying they're good or bad, but they may leave you feeling drained or used. So just kind of check in with yourself, like, how does this feel? How do I feel like I'm going to feel after this? If it feels right in the moment, then do whatever you want. But if it starts to feel off in your body, then stop. And then just ask yourself, I don't know where that just came from. And then just ask yourself, where, in what, in what area of this encounter is there anything that you are looking to find in here? Are you looking for something out of this? Or are you just doing it for the mere pleasure of doing it? So these are just some things to think about when it comes to empaths and sex, because sex is an energetic exchange. It is the most intense energetic exchange between two people other than childbirth. And so when you are sexual with someone, you really have to ask yourself, is this person's energy something that I would want for myself? And if it's not, then you might want to reconsider being sexual with them, because you're going to take it on. You can also use your boundaries to protect yourself. Okay, so this is an exercise for you guys. For relationship protection, I have the word protection on here, but this is more like a shielding exercise, something to just kind of keep you in tune with your own needs, with being able to assert what you need in a relationship, and any type of relationship, any type of relationship. So you can do this. I'm going to read through this. You can do it now by pausing this and then journaling what comes up for you. But if you do not do this now, I invite you to come back and do this after you've finished this module. So I would just like you to quiet your mind and begin to breathe deeply. Close your eyes. Allow your belly to rise on the in-breath and fall on the out-breath. And I just want you to ask yourself, as I ask you these questions, or as you ask yourself these questions, tune into what your body is saying. So what's the first thing that comes to you when I ask? What do I need in a relationship that I've been afraid to ask for in the past? Which of my sensitivities would I most like my partner to support? Is there anything that I've been settling for in my current relationships? And how can I ask for support around moving forward with that? Or how can I support myself moving forward with that? And what would make me feel more comfortable with someone? So the point of these questions, and if these questions trigger other questions for you, then please feel free to write them down and do this exercise again. These are just example questions. You can ask yourself whatever you want. The point of these are to define what feels good for you, to be open and honest and vulnerable with yourself. There are no right and wrong answers. There is no right and wrong. This is just what's coming up for you. But be honest with yourself. So after you've received your answers to each question, record them in a journal. Feel free to write them down. Feel free to record them in a microphone app. But the point is just to have them to refer to. So when you're entering new friendships, new relationships, when you have a new coworker, when you have a new client, you're asking yourself these questions of how do you need to be supported in a relationship? How do you want to feel in a relationship? And are these people matching that? So you can come back to this and refer back to it. So I invite you to do this exercise if you have not done it already. Okay, so in a relationship, some of the ideal people that we want to be with that really help support empaths are the intellectual, the empath, or the rock. So intellectuals are great because they are known for keeping calm during a conflict. And they make good partners for certain empaths because their sense of logic complements and anchors the empath's emotional intensity. So if you find yourself in a relationship with an intellectual, then make sure you're asking for help from them. Make sure you're only coming to them with one issue at a time, and then regularly communicate with them. And then encourage your intellectual partner to breathe when they're talking to you. Sometimes intellectuals can get caught up and avoid their emotions, so encourage them to breathe through something, through an issue, to exercise and to empathize before they approach you with an issue or before they respond to yours. So the second type is the empath, or again, the emotional sponge. And obviously, empaths are kind, supportive, and passionate partners. And they can definitely have great relationships because the heart connection can be beautiful and incredible. Two empaths can also overwhelm each other, and they may have a hard time staying grounded. So, ways to work with your empathic partner, if you are in a relationship with another empath, is to take time to regroup and decompress. Make sure that you are each giving each other space to quiet down, ground, and unwind. Do exercises to keep your sensitivities protected or shielded. Meditate. You can meditate together or by yourself. And then the third type is the rock, or the strong and silent type. And these partners are consistent, dependable, and stable, and they'll always be there for you to lean on. Empaths typically feel pretty open around a rock because they allow you to express your emotions freely without getting alarmed or being overly critical. Rocks do have a hard time sharing their own feelings, but they can make great partners because they balance each other well. So you want to express gratitude with them to allow them to know how appreciative you are in their life. And make requests for intimacy. Like, what do you need in this relationship? How do you want your intimate relationship to look like? And then get out in nature together. This helps you both get activity, helps you both connect with yourselves more, and just to help ground and relieve any stress. And then if you have a strong rock type partner, then you can ask them to initiate emotional exchanges with you, so you're not always the one initiating the talk of emotions. You can remind them to please show their feelings to you. Neither of you are mind readers. You may be able to sense what they're feeling, but you would like for them to open up and be verbal and vocal with their feelings. And to also make physical contact. So some empaths want more physical contact than others, so just see what feels right for you. Most importantly, you want either partner to respect each other's space, time, sensitivities, so on and so forth. Okay, so the types of people to avoid are the energy vampires. And basically, an energy vampire is toxic energy in human form. Often, the energy vampires that we're going to go over, these are often highly, highly wounded people who either refuse to see or refuse to heal their emotional wounds. Every type of energy vampire is just a very, very wounded person from childhood. They can change. Not all energy vampires have to stay energy vampires, but they have to do the work necessary to change. So how do you know if you've met an energy vampire? Well, the basic, the blaring one is you feel like shit. You feel like total shit after you've been with them, after you've talked to them, after you've encountered them, that you just feel like a pile of shit, or you feel tired. You may have been in a great mood until you met up with them. And then you're just like all of a sudden in a poor attitude. You're just not feeling anything. You might be irritable. You might be grumpy. You're just in a bad attitude after your exchange with them. Or you feel ill. Your stomach might feel in knots. You might just feel like you need to lie down. You may reach for sugar or carbs for a mood boost because they've drained your energy. So because sugar and carbs are that quick hit of energy, you may find yourself reaching for them every time you encounter this person. Or you start becoming overly self-critical. You begin doubting yourself. Because they put doubts about you in your own mind. So you may take their own doubts on as truth, because a lot of times energy vampires have very strong stances about things. So we can take their truth on as ours, but it is not ours. And then your mood can switch from positive to negative. And you may also feel controlled, judged, or shamed if you're in a relationship or you have an encounter with an energy vampire. An energy vampire is attracted to the openness and loving heart of an empath. So this is why sensitive people need to be prepared for them. Some relationships with energy vampires can actually be energizing for empaths, but most of them are draining. Empaths tend to learn a lot from relationships with energy vampires, but some energy vampires may just hinder your growth with yourself or just totally drain you and suck the life out of you, literally. I've had it happen. Okay, so these are the 7 types of energy vampires that Judith Orloff has identified. She's a MD slash book writer who has done a ton of research with empaths. So she has identified the 7 types. We're going to briefly go over these, and then you can discover if anyone in your life fits the script. So the narcissist. Oh, the narcissist. Of all the energy vampires, the narcissist can be the most destructive to empaths. The full-blown narcissist can be the most destructive with empaths because narcissists act as if the world revolves around them. They think they are the most important person in the world. They may bend rules to benefit them, but then they expect everyone else to do things their way, regardless if it's something that they've done separate. So for an example, they may turn left right in front of a car because they want to go, but then if a car were to turn left right in front of them, they might like cuss them out or develop road rage afterwards. So narcissists are damaging to empaths because they have little or no capacity for unconditional love because they do not love themselves. They don't know how to love themselves. And the thing is that a lot of empaths are drawn to narcissists because empaths, they get caught up in the charisma of a narcissist, the promise of love and connection that narcissists offer at the very beginning. Narcissists appear to have so much to give, but they don't. They have nothing to give because they're not even giving anything to themselves. And they present themselves as someone that they're totally not. In public, they are one person. Behind closed doors, they are totally different persons. So this can leave the empath feeling very confused, very conflicted, and almost shameful for one, being in this relationship, and 2, not knowing, like, who am I dating? Who am I with? Who have I surrounded myself with? And narcissists often gaslight, which distorts another person's perception of reality by intentionally setting up situations that make the person feel crazy and question their own sanity for reacting. So a lot of people will believe in gaslighting, and empaths are extremely sensitive to it. So do not allow yourself to be manipulated by a narcissist. Do not expect a narcissist to be anything that they are not, and do not fall in love with a narcissist. Run the opposite direction. You will never get away from the narcissist's ego. So the second type is the rageaholic. The rageaholic is the energy vampire that deals with conflict by accusing, attacking, and controlling. These are the people who get very angry very often and often yell and get angry to make a point. Empaths don't do well with yelling, so this can be damaging to their emotional health. And we can start to feel physical pain when people around us yell. So rageaholics typically behave poorly around their loved ones, and they say like really inappropriate and disrespectful things to their partners. So this can be a friend, this can be a partner, this can be a family member. So when you are around a rageaholic, you have to set limits with them. You have to know the difference between someone venting to you and someone dumping all of their issues on you. So when someone is venting to you, then they are just bringing something up. It's healthy expression and time is limited. But if someone is dumping on you, this is toxic, and it goes on and on and on. And rageaholics will do this. They just complain and complain, and they are doing this from a space of anger. So you'll know if you're with a rageaholic, if they're always saying things from a place of anger. So you can let the rageaholic know that you hear them. You can tell them to please stop yelling, and you can leave the room if they begin yelling, to let them know you've set a boundary that you will not tolerate that. Okay, the third type of energy vampire is the victim, and the victim is just mentally draining to the empath. This is the person with the world is against me type attitude. They don't take responsibility for anything that happens in their life. This is always the person that responds to every single thing with, well, yeah, but, well, I could, but, and they always have a but to everything. So you have to learn to set boundaries with this person. You have to learn to recognize the victim mentality and be careful not to become codependent or into their therapist. You don't want to take on their issues as their own, and you don't want to get yourself caught up in constantly giving them a therapy session all of the time. This is typically a friend or a family member. However, it can be a partner as well, or even a coworker. I know a lot of empaths who coworkers, the victim coworker, latches onto them. So you can be compassionate with them, but set clear boundaries, and then create a time limit. Create a time limit with how long you're willing to talk to them. So the fourth is the drama queen or king, and this person overloads an empath with just nonstop drama. This can be just gossip. It can be something that the person is just, there's always something happening. Everything is a crisis for this person, and they just always are coming to tell you. And so it could be something like, oh, I had a toothache, and then my cousin's car got stolen, and then I saw something on the news, and then I ran into a wall, and then I lost $20, and they are just nonstop. And this is very mentally fatiguing to the empath. And the drama queens and kings of the world, they get energized off of someone's reaction to what they're saying. So the key here is to stay consistently calm. Show very little to no emotion when you're talking to them. Don't egg anything that they're saying on. Don't even ask them how they're doing. Instead, just breathe deeply through the conversation and be firm with your time limits. Let them know that either if you're feeling uncomfortable, you have to go, or you have to do something else. Make something up if you have to, but be very firm. All right, the next one is the control freak and the critic. And these are the people that are always giving unsolicited advice of like, hey, you know what you should do? You should do this. You should do that. They continue to tell you whether you want to hear their advice or not, or they're always nitpicking everything that you're doing. Like you forgot to put the dishes away, and they're like, oh, you didn't put the dishes away again, or you missed a spot when you were wiping off the bathroom mirror, and they're nitpicking about that. How you park, how you walk, how you dress, anything that they can pick at, they will. So empaths, because we are so heart-centered, we may take to heart the control freak or the critic's disapproval, particularly if us as an empath lack self-confidence. So you want to remember that if you're feeling attacked, depressed, or tired by this person, that it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. So what you can do is be assertive with these people, but don't tell them what to do. So instead of saying like, no, I'm not going to do that, you can say, I value your opinion or I value your advice, but I really want to try to figure out how to do this on my own. Or you can just ask them to stop criticizing you, or you can cut the relationship off. and work on your own emotional issues, because the more inept you feel with your own emotional health, the less affected you'll be by someone else's lack of. So the nonstop talker is number 6, and this person can drain the energy out of an empath because of just the endless verbal talks and assaults. And so I have someone in my family who's a nonstop talker, and these people, like, they trap you because they just continue to talk and talk and talk. And it's like, it's that person that, like, oh my gosh, are you even taking a breath? Like, when's the last time you actually inhaled during this conversation? And then you say something and they cut you off, or right after you're done, they relate it back to themselves and they talk and talk and talk. And then they're repeating themselves over and over and over again. They're telling the same story 3 different ways to make sure that you heard it. And they get really close to you. They're invading your personal space. So what you can do here is because empaths are such good listeners, this is why we attract the nonstop talkers. What you can do here is literally correct your body language with them. So you want to disconnect with them. You want to create space. You want to create space from yourself with them. They don't respond to nonverbal cues. So just looking annoyed or looking like you're not listening, they're not paying attention to that. So you have to tell them that, like, that you're done talking to them. Be polite about it. Like, please excuse me. I appreciate everything that you've said to me this far, but I have to go say hi to my friend, or I have to take this phone call, or I have to get this work done. And then you can also say, I'd like to talk too. I would love to add to this discussion as well. And then you can always just use humor if it's someone that you're close with. Like, geez, clock's ticking, man. Like, are you going to get to the point here? So you can use a couple different tools here. And the fourth energy vampire, is the passive aggressive person. And this person expresses their anger with a smile. They sugarcoat hostility, but being an empath, you can sense the anger beneath their facial expressions. Beneath the smile, you can feel the anger. So this is where your intuition comes into play. Believe your intuition. Even if someone is saying something with a smile, believe what you are feeling, because what you're feeling 99% of the time is going to be correct. Okay? So the protection strategy around these people is to not question your intuition. Do not question your intuition. And also, if you can't get a direct answer from this person, then just ask them to clarify. So if they're just kind of saying something, but you get a feel that they're meaning something else, you can just be like, hey, can you clarify that for me? Like, is this really what you mean? Or what do you mean by saying that? And then with all of these types of people, you want to make sure you retain your power. Be empowered in these relationships. Take an inventory of the people who are draining you and cut them out, or reduce your time with them dramatically. You can create space between these people. You can create a list of the people in your life that match these categories, and then ask yourself, like, how does this person make me feel, and how much time do I really want to spend with them? If they're important to me, obviously I want them in my life, but how are they affecting my well-being, my mental and emotional well-being? And then you can do that emotional hangover exercise that you learned in module 2 as well, to help you protect yourself and to keep yourself at maximum wellness. So moving forward, emotional healing and self-awareness is extremely important for empaths. So as you continue with your own emotional healing, then you are less likely going to take on the toxic emotions of someone else. Because I think that we talked about this in module 1, but if you remember, the unhealed emotions in ourself, the unhealed emotional wounds in ourself, we can attract and absorb those emotions from other people. So we have to resolve those in ourself first. Resolving those emotional wounds in ourself creates an uptick in self-awareness. And this will allow us to not only be present when we're with people in our lives, but to be able to communicate our wants and needs in a relationship, and then to recognize when that person cannot fulfill those wants and needs for us. Does that make sense? So the more you heal your own fears, anxieties, angers, frustrations, etc., the less likely you will take on these emotions from others. So you're creating your own protection strategy just by doing your own self-work. Emotional healing and energy healing is so important for empaths. It is one of the greatest tools that you can use. So practice forgiveness if you've been in a relationship with an energy vampire as well. One of the greatest tools that we can do is forgive others. We can forgive others for not being able to care for us the way that they couldn't even care for themselves. So if there's someone in your life that you've been in a relationship with who hurt you, I encourage you to write a forgiveness letter to them, and then forgive yourself for being in the relationship as well, or anything that you've done in the relationship as well. Your affirmation for this week is, I deserve to be heard in all relationships. I deserve to have happy and healthy relationships in all areas of my life. Say it, preach it, believe it. Okay. How was module 4 for you guys? I hope that you took away some valuable information. I will be sending you some exercises to do with your email this week. And as you've already seen, because you've opened the email after this video, but I'm recording this video before I write the email. And I hope that you learned a lot about relationships. So when I talk about relationships, I don't just mean the people that we want to be with forever. And being an empath, it can feel very overwhelming being in relationships with other people. And this is why doing the work on ourselves is so important, because the more that we can heal, the more that we can not only hold space for other people, but we can recognize when they can't hold space for us. And this goes with family members, friends, clients, etc. I've had to fire clients before because they were toxic to my well-being and their own. I've had to cut people out of my life, my friendships, as I've become more sensitive, because I've recognized that they just drain me. They drain me, and they're just like their own negative thought process. It's nothing against them. It's just like I couldn't deal with it anymore for my own well-being. And then family members, there's family members that I limit my time with, very, very short time frames with some family members. And that's okay. There's no right and wrong in this. This is all what works for you. If you are someone who you do have a toxic friend or family member, coworker, so on and so forth, but you don't want to cut them out of your life, that's fine. But I just encourage you to be aware of how they make you feel, or they don't make you feel anyway, how you feel around them, the feelings in your body that are coming up around them. Go back to week 1's yes and no exercises and the other body muscle testing exercises that you learned, and tune into those. Does this person feel like a yes to me? Do they feel like a no to me? And trust that. Your body has all wisdom. Your body is like all knowing, because we are energetic. All energy that's ever been created and ever will be created exists right now. We have access to all information, because that's all energy is information. We have access to it through our bodies, through our intuition, through our sensitivities. So use those gifts that you are given and determine what types of relationships you want in your life, and then allow yourself to have them. Give yourself permission to have them. So I hope that you found value from all of this content. I trust that you did. I can't wait to hear about it in the group, and I'm sending you guys so much love. I will see you in a few days in the Facebook group.